It seems that the WWE really can't do anything wrong right now. You watch the show and you think, yeah, it's good, but why was it not good in 2019, right? Well, why was it not good for so long, but why now is it the best it's ever been? And on the same token, when you watch AEW, you think, why is AEW not as good as it was in 2021? Like, what changed? Why did it flip? What is going on? Now, I believe the reason why WWE is so good right now is because there is weekly episodic television, and because it has A, B, and C storylines. And they're constant storylines. Every week you get a little bit of something in each story, but it doesn't really matter who you are on the roster, or what your position is on the card, or whether you're a big-time player, a champion, or someone who's on the undercard, or someone who's barely known. You are in a story. You're in either an A, a B, or a C story. And that's the truth of the matter. That's really it. Because whether you're on Raw or SmackDown, there are your A storylines. Those are the Bloodline, Cody Rhodes, Drew McIntyre and CM Punk, right? Or the World Heavyweight Championship, the Judgment Day, right? Those are your A storylines. And then there's B storylines. Those are the secondary championships, right? Logan Paul, anything going on with him, right? Anything going on with like Randy Orton or Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn on Raw, or like Gunther, as it used to be. But then there's your C storylines as well. And this is the thing that AEW doesn't get. Because AEW has A stories. It has, one or two at a time A stories, right? It's usually MJF, whatever's going on with MJF. Swerve, Strickland is another A story. And then AEW has B stories, which are pretty much everything else on the card, right? Those are your Christian Cages, right? Those are your Chris Jericho and the Learning Trees, okay? And your Hook and Samoa Joe, which I can't stand this feud that's going on right now with them. I think it's the least entertaining thing. I don't like Samoa Joe as it is anyway. It's your Orange Cassidys, right? It's your Don Callises. Oh yeah, another A story for AEW would be like the Elite, right? What's going on with them? The Elite, Matt and Nick Jackson and Jack Perry. So AEW has A stories and B stories, which pretty much fill up the entire thing. But what AEW does not have, that WWE has, are C stories. These are your less important stories, but nevertheless, they're still happening. In WWE, what's even an example? I don't even think I could come up with an example of what a C storyline would be, but it's pretty much just like the lower tier wrestlers, the superstars that they've never been WWE champion, they've probably never been Intercontinental or US champion or anything like that, but nevertheless, they're still on the card, and they're still in continuing stories that go week to week to week. The Liv Morgan and Dominic Mysterio type of thing, that's kind of a C storyline, kind of a little bit. I wouldn't say the Chad Gable Otis thing is a C story. That's probably moved its way up to being a B storyline. The Final Testament, right? That would be a C storyline. It doesn't really matter how good or bad the storyline is. There's still weekly stories being told, whether it's A, it's just the top of the top, B, it's a mid-card, or C, it's lower tier stories. Either way, they're still being told weekly, and they're still, capitalizing off during like the pay-per-views and stuff. That is what's going on with WWE. But with AEW, there seem to be no C storylines. Instead of C storylines, we have people like Commander coming into AEW and having a random match against whoever at the time. It doesn't really matter. Alright, so I'm not going to lie to you, AEW has stories. It has stories, but it has a couple of A stories and a couple of B stories. That's all it's got. Somehow AEW cannot figure out how to get a C storyline going, and how to get that C storyline to go from a C to a B to maybe eventually an A. That's what's happening in WWE. That's what happens. Sometimes these lower tier stories, these C stories, evolve to a B and then maybe even an A. But instead of that, AEW will put on a couple of random matches as opposed to a C storyline. There's no lower tier storyline. It's just a random match. And I think that's something WWE has only started to do in the last couple of years. Because I remember watching in 2019, and I just remember I was skipping through everything. Like there might have been some C or B storylines, but for the most part, it was just, I didn't care. I didn't care at all. And they just, even if there were these C and B storylines back then, they weren't doing it right, like they're doing right now. And so honestly, what AEW needs to do is figure out how to get stories to evolve week after week, and how to have, how to be okay with people on the roster who might not be an A guy or a B guy, but might do fine as a C guy, and get the C guy into some storylines. Because that's the thing that I think Tony Khan fears, and something that AEW does a lot, because they have so much talent. They want everybody to be an A player, that if they can't be an A player, they just take them off the show. They're not on the show anymore. I mean, what do you think happened to Malachi Black? What do you think happened to Miro? Malachi Black and Miro could be perfect people for a B storyline, maybe even a C storyline right now, that eventually works its way up. But that's my theory as to why WWE is doing everything absolutely correct right now, and why it is as hot as it is. You let me know what you think. I mean, obviously, it's not just that. There have been improvements everywhere, right? But I think this is, like, storyline-wise, week-to-week-wise, this is mainly what is different from between WWE and AEW, and what's different between WWE now and WWE of a couple of years ago. So you let me know what you think. That's pretty much all I have to say. Good night.